Mason is 18 months old now. We were diagnosed with ATRT, which is atypical teratoid rhabdoid tumor. That's really hard. He was diagnosed about a month after his first birthday. It was his first birthday is June 20th, and we were diagnosed with it August 4th. Um, he uh, he wasn't he wasn't acting right one day, and I kind of pushed it off for as long as I possibly could. And when Tony had made dinner, I brought him out to put him in the high chair, and he had thrown up 4 or 5 times, and it was just not like him. Even throughout all of teething, he had never thrown up for me. So I called my mom. I said, "Mom, he's not right. Something's wrong with him." And she had come over, and when she had come over, she looked at his eyes, and one pupil was super tiny, one pupil was super big. And when we would set him down to walk, he could no longer walk. And for 2, 3 straight months, he was running around my house.
I would say the biggest milestones are that before all this started, he was running and walking and full life and all over. So we've kind of gone back, and it's almost like he is at physically a 6 month old level, opposed to where he was when it all started. He lost some motion on his right side due to the removal of the tumor and where it was placed, which we knew going in that there could be a chance of 100% paralysis. So we're extremely lucky that there's movement and we have something to work with.
ATRT, which is atypical teratoid rhabdoid tumor, is it's a genetic disorder. It's a genetic gene. It mutates in their head, or actually, not even necessarily in their head. It's known to happen in their head, their spine, and their kidneys. Those are the three main spots that these tumors show up. Mainly, where you first notice it is the brain, and then it can spread as far as that goes. Mason is considered non-metastatic, which means it does not spread. There's a lot of kids that pass away from this, which are metastatic, and it's been all over their body. So it's a lot harder to control when it spreads. Um, if you catch it in Mason's case, where we did, and it's only in one spot, there's a little bit more of a percentage there added to whether or not they may or may not make it or can fight through it. Um, it's so rare that there's maybe 300 to 400 cases a year in the U.S. Um, it wasn't even made a cancer until 95. It didn't. Nobody even knew it existed. They kept misdiagnosing it for a different type of brain cancer until they made this their own its own species, its own type of cancer. So it's only been around for about 15, 20 years. It's very new. So that's why a lot of the treatments are only clinical at this point, clinical trials, because they don't know enough about it to know what can kill it off, what's going to prevent it the best. Um, like Mason, he's going through probably one of the biggest clinical trials as of now that's working the best for kids. Of course, older kids that are coming out of it better than younger. Um, but for the most part, um, it's pretty scary. If you ever hear it come out of a doctor's mouth and it's your child, you don't want to hear it. It's scary. It is. So, but
The excuse me, is early or late, however you want to consider it. 10 years ago, his oncologist looked at us and said, 10 years ago, if you would have brought him in here, we would have looked at you and said, take him home and spend as much time with him as possible. Because even as early as 10 years ago, there was nothing that they could do for these kids. So they've come a long way. And we have faith that he's going to be good and he's going to be okay. So,
some of the developmental issues he may have um, would be speech. Going into this, he will lose hearing due to these rounds. Well, he could have lost it the last 3 rounds, but these rounds, they're so heavy duty and will hit him so hard for his age that more than likely at least 30% hearing loss will happen in each year. Um, So he'll have speech issues. He'll have issues with his right side always. Because every time he goes under anesthetic, his brain will kind of snap back and be like, okay, it's weak again now. So even as far as progress makes in PT and OT right now, it's not going to make much difference until we stop with the surgeries. He for sure will have issues. I mean, we're having a huge issue with him walking or even crawling for that matter of fact. He was crawling by the age of 6 months all around the house. So he'll have issues with that. Um, Other than that, there shouldn't be any other developmental issues until we would have to go into radiation. Then he would start to lose speech and hearing, and he would be one in his head for the rest of his life. He wouldn't be able to learn.
He wouldn't continue to develop with his brain patterns.
It isn't necessarily curable. It is beatable. He's seen cases that are 7 years out and they're doing fine. No tumor growth back at all, nothing. But then there's also an issue with his age, him being so young, with babies anywhere from newborns to about 2 years have issues because their bodies just can't handle the medication they're getting. It's a lot. So when you're in Mason's age, it drops down to about 15% living chance. But doesn't always mean it's true. I've seen stories of a baby going in at 6 months old and they're fine now. Of course, they've had to have radiation, so there's a lot of issues with them. But as far as it goes, it's not that beatable for Mason, but I believe that if he can get through this, he can get through the next 3 rounds. He's fighting. He's a strong boy. We went to the PICU for 5 days last round. He had a respiratory infection, like I said. His lungs were filled with liquid. Within 2 days, he was off oxygen on room air, and he was on high flow oxygen. So if he can get off oxygen in 2 days and get home in 5, I can guarantee he can do anything at this point. He's fought through it all at this. I mean, he really has. His surgery, he could have died. So looking at it now, he's the strongest little boy I've ever seen in my entire life. He's stronger than I am because I couldn't do it. So
we try our best not to focus on numbers because it's pretty depressing. So what we focus on is any progress he makes. If he's happy, if he's eating, we're happy. So as long as we're moving forward and not backward, we know they're there, but we try and put them in the back of our heads.
We don't like looking them up because they are very grim. But like I said, there's also very good stories out there for these kids. So
we're lucky insurance has been picking up quite a bit of the medical, but there's a lot that they don't approve for one reason or another, and those are things such as he needs a brace for his arm and his hands, and possibly might need one for his leg, and there's a few of the prescriptions that aren't covered and whatnot. So we've been extremely lucky that we've had such great support behind us the last several months, because without the fundraisers, I don't know where we would be right now. So we've been extremely grateful for everybody that's been involved in just personal phone calls and prayers, and it's prayers definitely work.
He's a miracle baby.
So,
yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a struggle, but we've been extremely lucky. The city of Geneva and the surrounding communities have been absolutely wonderful and just totally embraced Mason. And we honestly can't thank them all enough.
There's not enough thanks in the world. Devastating. It was heartbreaking. You don't think you're going to take your son to an ER and they're going to tell you he has cancer. Just recently, 5 months prior, my grandma had been diagnosed with lung cancer. So I'd been battling with that. Years prior, my Uncle John had died to leukemia, passed away. And my grandfather also has prostate cancer. So cancer, I can say I hate it with everything that is in my body because it hasn't been too nice to his family. It was really hard. It really was. It was finding out that your then 13-month-old son, pretty much I thought his life was over. I thought he's done. I'm not gonna have him anymore because the doctor told me if you wouldn't have brought him in today, 2 days later, he would have passed away in his sleep. Um, so I was lucky to catch it when I did, and lucky to catch the symptoms and call my mom and say, listen, something's not right with him. Otherwise, today Mason would not be here. But luckily, because I was so up his butt constantly, we caught it in time, hopefully, um, to save him eventually, and hopefully one day there will be a cure for this. I'm hoping that that's my prerogative now that Mason has it. I want to get it out there. I want people to know what this is. I don't think parents should ever find out their child has a cancer like this and not know a little bit about it. And I know it's so rare, but it is and isn't because, like I said, Mason's that 1 in a million child. If my son's that 1 in a million, what about your son? What about his son? What about her son? It could happen to anybody. It really could. So
I know personally for me, when we showed up in Cleveland on August 4th, we got there about 6:30, 7 o'clock. Got us right back 15 minutes. 15 minutes after that, he was in CAT scan. 15 minutes after that, 8 doctors in white coats walked into the room. And all I did was reached over and grabbed her hand. Because I've learned it's never a good sign. So our life changed that day forever. Because no matter what happens, when he beats this, because I know he will, his life will never be the same. Our lives will never be the same. So that day changed us forever. But we've stuck together, and we've been strong, and we just try to do the best we can for him every single day.